Good evening to the all esteemed dignitaries present over here. It's with extreme joy that I, Hasiba Salehi, along with Rosha Chatterjee, research interns with Raisina House, welcome you all to the launch of Rejuvenate Afghanistan, an initiative by Raisina House in collaboration with the Embassy of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, New Delhi, India. Under the dynamic guidance of His Excellency Ambassador Mohammad Tahir Qadri, charged d'affaires Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, New Delhi, India. Rusha, over to you.
Thank you, Hasiba. Conflict, violence, struggle for power. Afghanistan has seen it all. 4 decades of conflict. Afghanistan remains one of the most volatile of all South Asian nations. 2020 brought a new ray of hope. The peace agreement between the US and Taliban brought both the conflicting parties to the negotiating table. With the beginning of the third decade, it is imperative to put the growth of Afghanistan with the youth, who create the largest part of the Afghan demography, to realize the potential that they have and use it effectively to shape the future of the country. With that being said, now I would like to invite Ms. Rashika Agrawal, co-founder and executive director, Raisina House, to deliver the co-founders' keynote address. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rusha. A very good evening, Your Excellency Ambassador Tahir Qadri, esteemed delegates of the Afghan Embassy New Delhi and Afghan Consulate Mumbai, esteemed member of the Raisina Council, Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gadeock, AVSM retired, Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, IFS retired, Professor Santosh Kumar, Professor Vladimir Shotnikov, Dr. Manoj Kumar Mishra, and Mrs. Kalpana Chaudhary, members of the team, and all other esteemed guests present here. I, Rashika, on behalf of the Board of Directors at Raisina House, welcome you all to the launch of our latest initiative. Conflict, violence, struggle for power. For over 4 decades, Afghanistan has seen it all. Like it said, every cloud has a silver lining. The year 2020 turned out to be that for Afghanistan. Today, as the country negotiates a peace agreement with the Taliban, it is important that the people of the country look forward to a sustained post-conflict reconstruction of the country. The youth in the country makes up the majority of the Afghan population. Raisina House believes it is imperative for the growth of the country that the youth should have what can be termed as a vision for Afghanistan. And we, as part of the international community, it is our responsibility to assist the youth in developing that vision and materializing it to effectively shape the future of the country. In the beginning of this third decade of the 21st century, Raisina House is committed to strengthen the historic bonds between India and Afghanistan and assisting the Afghan youth to realize and materialize their potential. We at Raisina House host the Indo-Afghan Youth Forum in collaboration with the National Youth Consensus for Peace, based in Kabul, Afghanistan. The main objective of the forum is to strengthen youth voices in the Afghan peace process, an objective that is crucial for a sustainable peace agreement. The forum focuses on increasing people-to-people connection between India and Afghanistan, a platform for cultural exchange and, most importantly, sharing a common vision of development of the region. Raisina House, in collaboration with the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, introduces its project, Rejuvenate Afghanistan. Rejuvenate Afghanistan is a multi-tier vision project which will focus on an holistic reconstruction of Afghanistan through youth participation in dialogues, capacity building, stakeholder engagement in developmental assistance, and promoting people-to-people connect between the countries. The most important aspect of Rejuvenate Afghanistan is promoting a vision of peaceful Afghanistan, where peace is not just limited to absence of violence, but a combination of development and social justice. A post-conflict reconstruction or rebuilding must be based on that vision, else it would be difficult to ensure a sustainable peace. Through a combination of these two steps, I am sure we can rejuvenate Afghanistan. I would like to thank the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan under the dynamic leadership of His Excellency Ambassador Tahir Qadri, Chargé for collaborating in this project and supporting us. We look forward to a long and prosperous collaboration and working together in revisioning, rebuilding, and rejuvenating Afghanistan. I, On behalf of the Board of Directors, Raisina House, I'm glad to welcome our new member of the Governing Council, His Excellency Ambassador Tahir Qadiry. Raisina House is honored with your association. We look forward to your support and guidance in our journey ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much for introducing the vision and mission of Rejuvenate Afghanistan. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Ehsan Zia to kindly deliver the keynote address. And Mr. Zia is the Country Director for USIP and former Minister of Rural Rehabilitation and Development, Afghanistan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Asiba John, and thank you to Raisina House. And it is such a privilege for me to be invited and be given some time to speak with such a distinguished forum. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks and appreciations to the people of India and the government of India for their cordial support to the people of Afghanistan throughout the history, and particularly to over the last 20 years. I have been a witness of Indian generosity in Afghanistan, and I had the privilege of being part of the implementation of the development assistance that government of India provided to Afghanistan. And Safisa, it's such a pleasure to have you in this forum. The title of this vision is Rejuvenate Afghanistan and Youth Vision for Peace. I would like to touch upon a few historical decisions that has left lasting impacts even on today's Afghanistan, but unfortunately negative impacts that has been a barrier for preventing the articulation and formation of a peaceful vision for the country. This has to be sought in the history of governance. Afghanistan, unfortunately, doesn't have a long history of governance. Our governance system started in 1880, when the Russian Empire and British Empire got together and helped Amir Abdurrahman Khan to lay the foundation of a modern form of a state in the country. And it was at that time that the borders of Afghanistan was created, was drawn. And the British Empire had reached an agreement with King Abdurrahman that British Empire would provide financial assistance to help Abdurrahman Khan to cover the cost of his government, and he was given autonomy, domestic autonomy, and on foreign issues he had to seek consultation with British India. 1919 to 1920 is when Amallah Khan became the king, the son-in-law of Abdurrahman, and he, without carrying a proper calculation of was it the right time to declare independence or not, he declared independence. And upon declaration of independence, the financial support of the British Empire, which continued throughout the era of his grandfather and his father, Habibullah, came to an end all of a sudden. And then at the same time, Amallah Khan announced or declared women liberation, which was a good decision, but the timing was not right for the decision. As a result, his government collapsed, resistance started, and he had to leave the country. From 1933 to 1973, for 40 years, we had Zahir Shah as the king of Afghanistan. In September 1974, this is a major history that major decisions in the history of Afghanistan, which has left extremely horrible impacts even on today's current situation. In September 1974, Pakistan applied for UN membership, and in the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly, Afghanistan voted against membership of Pakistan. And you know why there is a deep-seated animosity, or at least deep-seated grudge on the part of Pakistanis against Afghanistan. Between 1950 and 1955, Afghanistan requested the United States for financial assistance. Afghanistan was a poor country with not too much of resources available to it. And the United States immediately refused financial assistance to Afghanistan because of Pakistani lobby. Pakistan, soon after the partition, joined the SEATO and CENTO Pact, which was led by the United States, and Pakistan lobbied hard against this request of Afghanistan. During King Zahir Shah, between 1963 and 1973, we had a decade of democracy, a decade of liberalization. Good old days. In this era of this 10 years, Afghanistan experienced establishment of parliament through election, freedom of political parties, freedom of political activities. New constitution was developed, and then instead of further strengthening this decade of liberalization, a worse decision had to come, and that was to the 1973 coup d'etat of Daoud Khan that abolished monarchy, and that era of democracy was transformed into an era of political repression. And it was then, at that time, the first armed struggle against the government of Afghanistan was started during Daoud Khan. I would rather call Afghanistan a country of missed opportunities than a graveyard of invaders. We had so many opportunities missed in this country. Let me refer to them. Opportunity number one was between 1919 and 1929, when King Amanullah was the king. Had he not declared independence, the financial support of the British government would have continued. That would have helped further strengthening of the state building in the country, so that the state could have taken roots in Afghanistan, and we would have not witnessed the collapse of King Amanullah's government, which was a disaster for Afghanistan. The second missed opportunity in Afghanistan was this decade of political liberalization. For 10 years, we had a parliament, we had the establishment of political parties, and the door for reaching political power was open through political struggle, but it was all of a sudden shut down, and that era of liberalization was turned into an era of political repression. Another huge opportunity which was missed in the history of Afghanistan was Geneva negotiation between 1982 to 1988, that when negotiation started by United Nations, and that Geneva Accord, which was signed between Pakistan, government of Pakistan and government of Afghanistan, did not brought an end to war and violence in Afghanistan, because a major party to the conflict, to the war, which was Mujahideen parties, they refused to participate in the talk with the government of Afghanistan at that time. And the establishment of a government was totally neglected. Due to our bad luck and also bad decisions, bad leadership, I would say, not so much of bad luck, soon after completion of Soviet withdrawal in 1989, Soviet Union collapsed. And with collapse of Soviet Union, we experienced withdrawal of United States, not withdrawal in terms of military forces, because there was no military forces, but disengagement of the United States from Afghanistan. And that led to continuation of severe domestic violence in Afghanistan, and then takeover of Kabul and Afghanistan by Taliban. The last missed opportunity in my record is Bonn Accord in 2001, December 2000, no, maybe November 2001, when Taliban, a major party to the war, whose government was just pushed out of power in Kabul by intervention of United States, was missing at the negotiation table in Geneva Accord. And that was perhaps a deliberate isolation of Taliban, or non-deliberate, but anyway. So because of the given time to me, I would focus on the need, or why do we need a vision for Afghanistan? Because lack of the vision has left the country, a country without purpose, without a direction. We never heard that what is the purpose of Afghanistan, which direction the country is going to go. We also need to articulate a vision that is to get this out of historical medicine in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the people of Afghanistan is kept in the history. Always we talk about our historical achievements. Historical achievements we had 100 years ago, 200 years ago. But what do we have today? Today, Afghanistan is 100% dependent on international aid. And we as a nation had to ask ourselves, is this a respectful position to be at, to be the recipient of aid forever? We need to get the nation to think about the future. We need to create a new narrative, because the current political narrative is that we have all of the problems in Afghanistan are caused by foreigners. Of course, there is an element of foreign intervention, but there is also a major part of domestic consequences that has led to today's situation in Afghanistan and continuation of violence. So we need to create a new narrative that is future-looking, that is inspirational, that brings people together. It is so unfortunate that we claim that we have a 5,000-year history, but we haven't been able to articulate a vision, a 50-year vision for Afghanistan, a 30-year vision for Afghanistan. And unless we engage our youth, and here I am addressing the youth, the Afghan youth that are participating and hearing me, is that you have to get together, organize, and don't believe in the current political narrative that which pushes all the responsibility on the shoulders of Pakistan, in Iran, in the United States, in Russia. The day before yesterday in Kabul was anniversary of the departure of Soviet forces from Afghanistan. And again, the same rhetoric, the same jihadi rhetoric was voiced. How long we should continue to live in a rhetorical world? We have to live in a real world. The real world is that Afghanistan is a country dependent on foreign aid. Afghanistan is a country at war. Afghanistan is a country with major social disintegration. So there are so many miseries that are facing us. And it is you, the youth of Afghanistan, you have to think of a future. Don't live like we were kept and we lived in the historical myths. Debunk the historical myth and prepare for future. So I would like to end before Rahul cut me off and hand over to you just two other elements about a vision statement. When you think of a vision, youth of Afghanistan, your vision has to be forward-looking. The vision has to be motivational and inspirational. It has to be a reflective of the culture and core values that you, as a youth, have to develop. Because unfortunately, this is a country where we have not been able to articulate what are our national values. No one knows. There is a total confusion about what is national values in Afghanistan. Because we don't have, no leader has ever came out to articulate. And my last point is then the vision has to define reasons for existence and where we are heading as a nation. So thank you very much, Rahul and Excellencies, for listening to me. And I would be very happy to hear your views and inputs. If you need any further clarification or question, I'm at your service.
Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening the gathering on the condition of Afghanistan and the importance of the new youth narrative for Afghan development. Now, with extreme honor, I would like to call upon Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gadeock, Vishisht Seva Medal, retired, member of Governing Council of Raisina House, Director General, Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and also marhaba to the very erudite and learned viewership today. Well, I take it a matter of honor always to speak to the youngsters, to the youth, that is younger generation, which are over 40 million in our country, the largest youth segment now in the world. And my special salutations to the Afghan Chargé Affairs, His Excellency Ambassador Tahir Qadiry, Mr. Ehsan Zia, the former minister whom we just heard. Excellent port articulation. I was very happy to hear you, Ehsan sir. Ambassador Anil, Trigunayat, the IFS gentleman, Mrs. Zadran, Afghan Youth Rep to the United Nations, Rahul Banerjee, co-founder, MD Raisina House, Rashika Danotia, co-founder, eminent members of the Governing Council, and dynamic youth, the future leaders of tomorrow. It is with a great sense of, I should say, propriety and humility that I personally would like to thank Hasiba and Rusha for the very small, kind introduction and putting me on this virtual platform to speak to you today. I also take this opportunity to convey my gratitude to Rahul and Rashika for their kind invitation for the keynote address, and for my indulgence on certain very important, relevant issues on Afghanistan. I particularly am delighted at this greenfield initiatives being taken by Raisina House in this regard. I can only say that may the gods continue to bless them with consistency as the fountainhead of youth, multiculturalism, and leadership, doctrinally emblematic to evolving strategic and critical perceptions. But inshallah, I think Rahul and Rashika already sees with it. I keep interacting with them, and I see tremendous amount of light. In fact, I see the sun at the end of the tunnel. Shall I say Bismillah and exemplify a few very pertinent aspects briefly for our audience, especially my Afghan brethren and all the Afghan students from Amity University today. Historically, I think Zia Saab has covered everything, but also from the Middle Ages to 1750, Afghanistan was part of Iran, and two of the very famous, that is, capitals, four main capitals of Khorasan, that is Baik and Herat, and now located in Afghanistan with Kandahar, Ghazni, and Kabul, forming frontier regions between Khorasan and Indus. I was so fortunate of being the adjutant of the National Defense Academy, and we had Afghan cadets who were very close friends of mine. I can never forget them because we often had tremendous amount of merriment during training. We rubbed shoulders with each other. And during the last stages, that is twilight of my career in the Indian Army, I also had Afghan officers, that is a good about 3 of them, brilliant officers from Afghanistan, very smart, dapper officers, but professionally competent, very fine character with courage and competence. And let me tell you, I think no end of my Afghan friends. And I always feel, and I tell my Afghan students here at Amity, that we are one. हम एक मुल्क के हैं, एक मिट्टी जो है हमारी जो है सरजमीन वो एक है, शख्सियत एक है हर एक इंसान की, कोई फर्क नहीं है। और उसके अंदर मैं जिसको बड़े फख्र के साथ कह सकता हूं, जब भी मैं इनकी तारीफ करता हूं, वो तारीफ शौर्य आफाक हर लम्हे पर मेरी जिंदगी में जहां भी मेरे अफगान दोस्त आए हैं, उनकी दोस्ताना ताल्लुकात जो हम सब ने देखी है, वो उसके बारे में मैं बहुत कुछ बोल सकता। I'll switch back to English, for which मेरे थोड़े बाजू तंग है हिंदी में, but I can only tell you that Afghanistan, the land of Pashtuns, has unfortunately remained a country in turbulent times and turmoil, and has witnessed extreme violence, terrorism, and conflicts. Very unfortunate in the South Asian region. 220 brought hope with the peace agreement between US and Taliban. Everyone knows about it. And both the sides, of course, agreed in negotiating along with the Afghan government in Doha. Well, we've got to see as to what are the proceeds. And with great amount of optimism, we are looking at the people of Afghanistan, the youth and the marginalized communities, especially the women. I speak a lot about women empowerment, and Ambassador Anil ji is here, Trigunayat sahab. He knows that we lay tremendous amount of emphasis on empowerment of women, enlightenment and their emancipation. अब मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि जो मोहतरमाएं हैं, जो अफगानिस्तान की जो बेटियां हैं, उनके हाथ में अगर गवर्नेंस दिया जाए, उनके हाथ में, if you are able to empower them, I am very certain, I can speak with tremendous amount of trust and confidence, that they are going to show transcendent, in fact, prosperity for the country of Afghanistan. And today, I would like to say it is also imperative that the dynamic and the educated Afghan youth, one of the boys is my student, he's sitting with me full-time, PhD, Ahmed. I'm sure he must be there attending this webinar. But I discuss with him and I always tell him that you are responsible to shape the contours of growth-oriented development for this very economically developed Afghanistan. It's in the making. We cannot be pessimistic about it, but we have to conform to a very ambitious perspective plan. I repeat, we have to conform to a very ambitious perspective plan. And I'm sure that my friend, the respected His Excellency Tahir Qadiry Saab, is going to take note of it. Please do not be pessimistic. Hindustan or Afghanistan, ek mulk hai. There is no difference between the people and our country. We always think of you as one, and we shall go at any length to help Afghanistan in any matter, in all multi-spectral, multifaceted activities. And today I can say that Afghanistan requires to emerge as a jewel of South Asia. A Kohinoor ke mafik, it has to emerge as a jewel of South Asia with multiple global players and banks and very dynamic, iconic youth, providing phenomenal resources towards accomplishment of their dream with timelines. ये जो मोहम्मद एहसान जिया साहब ने जो विजन के बारे में बताया है, what is your vision? It is nothing but your dream with timelines. So Qadri Sahab, you must dream big, be a dream merchant. And I am sure जो आप तसव्वुर करते हैं, वो यकीनन हकीकत में it will come into reality. And I can tell you one thing, that this Rejuvenate Afghanistan, I won't repeat, which has been given to me, it certainly is going to tremendously, in a very phenomenal dimension, help cement very fine ties of developmental processes with Afghanistan. An exceptionally significant and vital aspect of the concept Rejuvenate Afghanistan is promoting a vision of peaceful Afghanistan amongst the women and the youth. Please note, it is extremely important that this faction of the Afghan society is a very well-defined vision and onerous responsibilities on their shoulders, as also you must exploit the international community. अगर आपके अच्छे दोस्ताना ताल्लुकात हैं किसी मुल्क के साथ, सहे नसीब, you must make sure that they contribute. They should not be hypocritical. And that is the actual value addition. And that will be your immutable bonds of friendship, which you must nurture and make use of from those countries. This will be executed through the signature campaign of Indo-Afghan Youth Forum and the latest initiative of Capital Discourse, a platform where youth voices are going to matter, is going to be initiated, that is by Raisina House. The capacity building and stakeholder engagement. In order to realize the vision of a peaceful post-conflict Afghanistan, it is important that the majority population of the country possesses the capacity to execute this framework. We must engage with various like-minded governments, as I just said, educational and civil institutions, to work towards building and enhancing the capacity of Afghan youth on very favorable terms and conditions. अगर आपके मुल्क में literacy का high threshold होगा, you take it from me, I can say with tremendous certainty that your country will be making transcendent progress, seminal success on a hyper trajectory. You will achieve high pedestals of prosperity. Literacy guarantees literacy and healthcare and women empowerment. You must make sure that you exploit that. And if you get after education, मुझे यकीनन इसके अंदर पूरा मतलब faith है, भरोसा है कि आप लोग जो है, you will go ahead of many countries in South Asia. And also today I would like to say that the major key areas of collaboration include various peace foundations, skill development institutions, and specific programs on entrepreneurship, education, and training. Skill development at school level is very important. and higher educational levels. And you have to ensure that fostering an ecosystem of mentors and investors, supporting the policies as also for entrepreneurship and skilling. And please remember, for Afghanistan, where water is a scarce commodity, you must preserve and you must, at all costs, put your maximum effort to conserve water resources and carry out water harvesting. You must use the best technologies to ensure that water resources are created in Afghanistan. And towards that, I have included this point of preservation of environment, biodiversity, and climate change, and promotion of sustainability. I spoke about this at another webinar on sustainability. And I can tell you today what Afghanistan requires, as I was interacting with some of my friends, it is highly pertinent, and I buttress this particular issue, that unless and until you do not have adequacy of water resources, there is going to be a little bit of a problem in as far as agrarian economy is concerned and other projects as related to water resources. I would recommend, Qadiry Saab, that you must set up what is called the Afghanistan Projects Youth Implementation Committee, the AFPYIC. I repeat, Afghanistan Projects Youth Implementation Committee. This would ensure central hubs and centers of excellence in all the regions of Afghanistan, whereby designing, facilitating, monitoring, and evaluation towards multifaceted growth progression is ensured. A meticulous future blueprint of perspective plan matrix. You must have a perspective plan matrix for the youth, which they can chase in as far as your short-term, medium-term, and long-term perspectives are concerned. And please make sure those objectives are not intangible. Like in the army, please make out your tangible objectives and ensure that those are predicated and adjudicated to the youth by name. Only then can you make progression. Otherwise, ye sab hawa ke andar gumshuda reh jayega. And please remember, I solicit that all the phase-wise funding projects, that is from the UN youth programs, ADB programs, funding of greenfield growth-oriented projects, likewise the World Bank and the IMF funding for select modernization programs to leverage domains of education, skilling, environment, and healthcare for low to medium income groups, developing countries are available, and you must try to get them on priority for Afghanistan. Towards the end, I would like to conclude by saying, I'll just take half a minute, that collective endeavors by professional youth organizations would be focused on international community foundations and trusts. Make sure that you harness funding strategies, make out your funding strategies, and make out your core key performance areas so that the realization of your vision of a post-conflict modern Afghanistan through diverse MOUs on development partnerships, attaining sustainable development goals to benefit your country and every man, woman, and child is endured. Raisina House, through this project, will engage various stakeholders in India, as well as the international community in assisting the government and most importantly, the women and youth of Afghanistan. Usko nazarandaz nahi kar sakte aap. You must get after women empowerment because this area has been neglected far too much in Afghanistan. So kindly pay more attention to that. And I would also request that the standards must be met of the sustainable development goals by the year 2030. Give your timelines, give your self objectives, and to be fulfilled in a time-bound manner. I would lastly extend my gratitude to the co-founder and organizers of Raisina House for having this very fine congregation of eminent speakers highlighting the urgency of concretizing Indo-Afghan youth partnership programs. progressively, year by year, contributing to non-conflict, peaceful, and a very prosperous era of renaissance. I call it renaissance because it is resurgence of a powerful economic Afghanistan, which is very important. May the Lord mighty bless all the Afghan brethren and transcendent power of wisdom, peace, and harmony, and make us all proud of the great nation of Afghanistan. God bless humanity and the planet of Earth. आखिर में मैं आप सबको अपनी 3 जो लेगेसी है वो मैं आपको देना चाहता हूं हर वक्त. शौहरत, बरकत और मुसर्रत. शौहरत is fame, बरकत is prosperity, and musarrat is happiness. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Gadeock. That indeed was very insightful. Thank you for bringing into notice the pertinent role of women and youth in shaping the future of Afghanistan. Now, I would very kindly request Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, IFS retired, Governing Council member, Raisina House, and former Indian ambassador to Jordan, Libya, and Malta, to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
So thank you very much. It's a great pleasure being here. Welcome to my friends from Afghanistan. A very good evening to everyone. It has been heartening to listen to His Excellency, the former Minister Mohammad Zia, who gave a historic perspective, and my friend Lieutenant General Gadeock, who really gave you a blueprint, and not much is left to really mull over what can be done. But we are going to listen to His Excellency Ambassador Qadiry after this. Frankly, I would like to congratulate our Afghan friends and the Raisina House, a think tank driven by highly motivated youngsters, to create a platform and which is launched as Rejuvenate Afghanistan. Nothing is more needed than that. When we are talking of rejuvenate, it is a given that Afghanistan is a land of prosperity. It is a land of history, a land of culture, a land of civilization. What you require basically is just a little bit of a trigger. And as has been mentioned before, it is the youth that will do that. And I'm glad that this is Raisina House continues to focus on the situation, on the solutions, and sustainable development of Afghanistan through the salutary, long-lasting friendship between our two countries. Friends, India and Afghanistan have a strong relationship based on historical and cultural links. The real strength of and the levers are the P2P connect, people-to-people connect, which is exceptional, and we are all aware of it. In my view, that is what also counts the most for sustenance and trust in any bilateral relationship. In recent past, India-Afghanistan relations have been further strengthened by the strategic partnership agreement, because India does believe, frankly, in share and care, and which is proven by its history of collaboration with all these South countries especially, so that we can, whatever we have got, we would like to share with you. And that has been true also in the recent times when we are suffering from the pandemic. India has provided the assistance, food assistance, whether through Chabahar or other things, or now even the vaccines, on priority to our friends in Afghanistan and in our neighborhood in general. But we had signed this strategic partnership agreement in October 2011. And that was one which is not with all the countries in the region, but that provides a framework for helping rebuild Afghanistan's infrastructure and institutions, education and technical assistance to rebuild indigenous Afghan capacity in different areas, encouraging investment in Afghanistan's natural resources, providing duty-free access to the Indian market for Afghanistan's exports, support for an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, broad-based and inclusive process of peace and reconciliation, and advocating the need for a sustained and long-term commitment to Afghanistan by the international community. As was mentioned, that we do not want the people coming out and exploiting a situation to the extent. India simply wants to assist to the extent possible and as driven by the Afghan people themselves. So what is this assistance that we have given in various areas? I mean, that is provided various infrastructure is extremely important for any country which is ravaged by war. And it is now the Americans have been there since 2001, and before that you had the problem with the Soviets. And it has been really, although it is said as the graveyard of the invaders, but I think that it is also something to be proud of, that you've not been governed or been subjected by anyone. And that is an important thing that shows indomitable spirit of the Afghan people, and that in India we really look up quite significantly and always talk about it. In fact, Prime Minister Modi, if you come to think of it, has really given a great personal attention to Afghanistan, in my view. In 2016, he visited in about 4 months' time twice. He went to Afghanistan, and also to Iraq and some other places, which is very rare, and it has not happened before so much. So we see that this is some kind of a message that India stands and is heavily invested in the peace and development of Afghanistan. We strongly believe also that whatever gains have been made in the past 2 decades must not be frittered away and must be preserved. Interests of the minorities, interests of the women, youth, and the vulnerable sections have to be ensured in our developmental pursuit and in the political settlement. That is very important, and that's what India stands for. I remember my former boss, Ambassador S.K. Lamba, was appointed the special envoy to Prime Minister at that time, and I think it was after 2002. And he worked on various projects, including the P2P outreach. And the fact is, as per one survey, India's connect with Afghanistan and the affection was the highest for the Indian people, and which is the strength of our relationship. Recently, we have also given another assistance of $1 billion. This is developmental assistance for a new development partnership, in which we recently, only I think last week, we have signed this agreement on the second dam, which is Shahtood Dam, and the drinking water project for Kabul. That would also facilitate irrigation, water supply for the Charikar city, road connectivity to Bande Amir in Bamiyan province, so that the tourism could be promoted. Low-cost housing is important for the refugees in different areas. And similarly, the local industries to be developed. And so that there is certain kind of an import substitution, and that helps our people in Afghanistan. India has also undertaken, something called a new design that has come up. It's called High Impact Community Development Project in all the 34 provinces in Afghanistan. And there are about 116 of them. And they deal with virtually every aspect, whether it is education, health, agriculture, irrigation, drinking water, renewable energy, flood control, micro hydropower, sports, or administrative. Your cricket team is superb. So we enjoy that. Now this, our plan which we have now, which deals with education and capacity building, and the General Gadeock also mentioned about it, including the human resource development, skilling of the people. That program will be continuing from 2017 to 2022. And I think that we are always looking for feedback from our Afghan friends. Of course, our embassy provides this information, but anything that you think is required must be raised. And I'm quite sure, as Ambassador Qadiry will bear me out, that the Indian government is extremely open to all kinds of projects that come from Afghanistan on priority, irrespective. I think one thing lastly, I would like to say that even though India's development portfolio is over $3 billion, but there is no limit to it, frankly. Within our capacity, whatever we can do, we'll continue to do that, so that Afghanistan becomes a strong nation, a nation with a resolve, a nation as an example for everyone. The thousands and thousands of students who are studying in India will carry that message that they are coming from their other home, and that is India. And I like to see that this would be, this is what should go. And Afghanistan should not be constrained by its landlocked geography. We are there, and therefore we had tried to build this Chabahar port with the Iranians, and hopefully now with the change in the US administration, we shall look for a greater collaboration with Afghanistan through this land route so that the other problems do not really come in our way. And I would like to once again wish all our Afghan friends a really bright future, a strong country, a united country, and a great friendship and brotherhood between our two countries. And I want to thank once again Raisina House and our Afghan friends for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts. Thank you, Shukran.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now it's my honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Mohammad Tahir Qadiry, Charge of Affairs, Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, New Delhi, India, to kindly deliver the keynote address and launch the Rejuvenate Afghanistan and introduce the logo of Rejuvenate Afghanistan. Over to you, sir.
Unmute, unmute. Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, Hasiba Jan, and thanks to the great panelists, to my fellow Afghans, to my Indian colleagues. A special thanks to the Raisina House for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. Salams to Excellency Minister Zia. Salams to General Sahib, Excellency Ambassador Anil, and also my good friends Rahul ji and Rashika ji. And I'm very actually honored and privileged that they have given me this offer, and great privilege to be a member of the governing council. I think together we can do a lot of stuff to reconnect and to connect, in fact, the youth of both countries. I know that this today's webinar is happening during the hard time of COVID. However, I would have invited you guys all over here over a cup of saffron tea, which we call it the Afghan Red Gold. So maybe some other time, you're more than welcome. We can, carry on with these dialogues here in the embassy. I would like to congratulate Raisina House on the launch of this great program, Rejuvenate Afghanistan. And also, I would like to also congratulate everyone here, both Indians and Afghans, on the recent vital and great Shawtooth project, which, as His Excellency, the President of Afghanistan, calls it the gift of life. I think Minister Zia put the historical perspective very beautifully, and at the same time General Sahib spoke about the visions and all that, and Ambassador Anil about the contribution of India to Afghanistan. So if you guys permit me, I would like to just walk you through a little bit, I think after fall of the Taliban, because that is an era which is quite important for my generation. I think the Taliban period, everyone remembers it as a black and white era. I was a teenager at that time, and I quite remember how my sisters were imprisoned and confined at homes and not having the opportunity to take an education. So looking back at then and now looking back at what we have got today, I think we cannot even compare it. So if you guys allow me, I would like to just a little bit give you some statistics right after fall of the Taliban, where we are quite proud of our young generation. Because for those who don't know, same like India, Afghanistan is one of the youngest populations. Perhaps more than 70% of our population is under the age of 35. So we are a very young generation, right? After fall of the Taliban, in fact, this young generation, they got involved into many platforms, starting from policy makings to getting into education, getting into government sectors. And the most important thing was, having the opportunity and the chance for the Afghan women and girls to get into universities. So as a result of these young people finding the opportunity to get into policy makings for the first time, now we see a kind of revolution, what we call it a revolution. So what we got today in terms of all the democratic values, the institutions, I think it is a shared common thing done by both our great leaders like Zia Sahab and others, and also the young generation, that they have been joining hands together actually to work for a prosperous future. I know that General Sahib was talking about empowering women at this era that I'm talking about right after fall of the Taliban. One more revolution that we had was empowerment of the Afghan women. So as a result today, I think it is quite surprising for you to understand that we have got 27% of Afghan women representing the Afghan parliament there. And we have got more than 150,000 Afghan women working in senior posts in government offices. We have got more than 6,000 Afghan women working in Afghan National Defense and Security Forces. Nevertheless, of course, the Afghan government, we have been working towards empowering the Afghan women and moving towards gender equality, which I forgot to say that our own Shkula Zadran is also here, and I'm sure she is a good example of what today's Afghan women are like. Of course, part of this goes back to the contribution that the international community did in blood and treasure. But nonetheless, I would like to give a very special thank you to our Indian counterparts that as a part of the contribution that made to Afghanistan right after fall of the Taliban party, today, luckily, one of the biggest gifts that they gave to Afghanistan was education. So as a result, more than 75,000 Afghan students have graduated since 2004 from India alone. And as I'm currently speaking, more than 16,000 Afghan students are studying here across India, which is, again, a very big achievement that we have now. So regarding the youth, I quite agree with Minister Zia that I think we need to have a vision and perspective for the future of Afghanistan. So as a result, we in the Afghan government have been working towards that empowerment. Alone in our embassy, we have been launching a lot of programs to connect the youth of Afghanistan, in particular the Afghan students, who we call them as the Afghan ambassadors, with our Indian counterparts and Indian friends and colleagues around, because they can represent and contribute to the culture here and represent a new Afghanistan. The concept of new Afghanistan, which I like it very much, and I have been speaking about this for some times, I think this is also a new phenomenon which the attributes go to the young generation who represent Afghanistan at different platforms. A couple of nights ago, for the audience, in case if they were not following that, one of our great athletes, actually, he, at the international platforms, he beat his Brazilian rival in Brazil. So, I mean, this is only a small example of Afghan youth coming out of the ashes. When I was working as a journalist, we worked on a documentary on the Afghan cricket players. And I quite remember where they started and where they are now. And again, thanks to India for giving them home both in Greater Noida and in Dehradun. Minister Sahib was speaking about the creating narratives. I quite agree that what Afghanistan really needs, especially right after fall of the Taliban, for this generation is creating that narrative and expanding it and reaching out to the international community. Regarding the recipient of aid, I agree that we have been a recipient of aid, but as the policies of the Afghan government, we have been moving towards from aid to trade, from rather being an aid recipient country to doing more trade. For example, here in India alone, if I could give you an example, in 2018, when I was 19, when I came to India in this capacity, our bilateral trade stood as $1.1 billion, while now it stands at $1.5 billion. Same with, our exports. So that shows the kind of movement and the vision that His Excellency, our President, has had regarding an economic-driven policy. So we have been working and moving towards from aid to trade. Today, Afghanistan is no more called a landlocked country. In fact, it's a land-bridge country. Because we are, as His Excellency, again, the President, quite recently when he had the summit level meeting with Honorable Prime Minister Modi, he said there that Afghanistan could well be the gate of India. So I would like to emphasize again that we are not a landlocked country, we are a land-bridge country, and we can connect South Asia to Central Asia, and we can be the gate of India. And connectivity has been another vision that our government has had, and as a result today we have got the air corridor, which as a result millions of dollars have been gained for both countries, both India and Afghanistan, as a result of that. So I think the takeaway of this program is that there are a lot of capacity and a lot of scope in working in today's Afghanistan, especially with the young leaders, and launching such program, Rejuvenate Afghanistan, will pave the way for such platforms to connect people, because as one of the panelists said, that what Afghanistan today needs is people-to-people contact, and I think such kind of platforms will really pave the way for that. So where we are today, I'm sure the audience knows that as I'm speaking, our 21 member of negotiating team are in Qatar, because we have made a lot of strides, and as I said, right after the fall of the Taliban, the kind of achievements I told you, those people are there to safeguard all those achievements, and it is quite important for us to safeguard those gains that Afghanistan has made with the investment of blood and treasure by the international community. And in fact, 4 brave women of Afghanistan are also representing us in those talks. However, the Taliban are not heeding to that. They are not adhering to their commitments there. They are having a tour of the region, unfortunately. So the violence is really high. And I'm sure you know about the number of attacks on a daily basis in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, some of our compatriots, some of our citizens are being attacked in the country. More than 18,000 attacks only happened over the last 10 months of 2020. That means 50 attacks every day. So that really means how you live like Afghans. So we have that resilience. And nevertheless, we have been trying to stand by our values, by the democratic and shared values that we share with India. And again, I would like to thank our Indian counterparts by standing by Afghans for preserving of those values. And as I said quite recently, that India and Afghanistan are 2 friends, and they will be walking, hand in hand through this process, both the peace process and the development process. So the takeaway for me from this platform today is the future. So the future is ours, and the future belongs to the youth of both countries. But the biggest question is, how do we seize this opportunity? I think the scope and the capacities and a lot of potential is there. So it only requires unity and also vision, as Minister Zia said. So these are the 2 things the youth of the both countries need, and otherwise the platforms and the scope and the potential is so much. I would like to thank you all again for giving me the opportunity to speak. I know that I touched on a lot of issues which required perhaps hours of discussions on those, but just I wanted to give you guys a glimpse of what today's Afghanistan looked like. At the end, as recently I wrote in an article, I would like to say that we are quite proud of this relationship that we have with India today. And this relationship resembles the Afghan character in Zanjeer film. I'm sure many of you guys have watched it. In Zanjeer film, where there is an Afghan character called Sher Khan, and there Sher Khan sings that Yari hai, Iman hai mera, Yari mere zindagi. So this is actually the kind of bond that the 2 nations have today. Thank you so much again, and I congratulate Rahul ji and Rashika ji and all the panelists and everyone on this. And here at the Afghan Embassy, you have got our full support, and we will connect you with the Afghan youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now ask Devang to kindly launch the logo for Rejuvenate.
To deliver the speech address. Over to you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello, greeting to everyone. I hope you are doing well. I'm Mr. Fularial, and I'm representing yet consistent farm fees, and this is a yet group which is combined of 140 CSOs in NGOs of Afghanistan, and we are working for FACE, and we have done many activities since a few months that the fee stocking is started. The first action that we take was a combination of 144 NGOs and CSOs all around the country, and now we are working together, and we are working in we make a platform that we join the youths all during one platform, and we are also working on a face mechanism to make us a mechanism for face and how to engage the youth in that mechanism. And as we know that the face negotiation is going on, and also the fees talking is going on, so we the youth are not happy of fees talking because the youth are not involved as much as it was or it will be. And also the third thing that we did was a survey all about the peace process and how to engage people in this peace process and what people want and what's the request of people. This survey was also all in the country, and the result will be announced, but unfortunately the security situation in Afghanistan is not as much better as like before. Our one friend said that every day we have bomb blasting or other security issues. So we will also announce the survey that what's the people request from the Taliban, from government, and what's the people mind about this peace process. But due to security problem, we are delaying the result. And also target killing are nowadays increasing in Afghanistan, and especially the social activists. We have lost many social activists and peace activists in Afghanistan, and some of them are going out of the country because of the security problem. So these are the issue or concern that youths are not able to take their action in peace process as they much need. And also we are not happy, as we said, because the government also not involved yet in the peace process, because the youths are 67% in Afghanistan. So if the 67% of Afghanistan population is not involved in the peace, so what will be the result? And I think this will not, in fact, and this will not bring a face for us in a peaceful life. This just will be forum that the government make with Taliban. So if the government really want to, we have a face that everyone is involved. So the youths are must involved. We have some structure of youths, like the government team make youth commission and also youth council, but these are not working as much as they need, because the government not given to them to authorities and also facilities. They are just like a symbolic. So these are the activities that we are doing, and we are trying to connect with other youths, and we collect the ideas of the other country youths, that how they can work with us and how we can make a mechanism and how youth involved in this peace process. And also we are working how to combine the youths in the enter the country or all from the cities, from the districts, and all from the all over the country. We are trying to combine youths during this platform and then work together. This was our activities, and this was my speech. And if someone have a question, I can answer your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aryan, for addressing the issues in Afghanistan. Now I would like to call upon Shkula Zadran, the Afghan youth representative to the United Nations, to kindly deliver her keynote address.
Sir, I believe she's not joined yet. She was traveling to her home. Okay, she's joining.
Right, I would now like to call upon Shkula Zadran, the Afghan youth representative to the United Nations, to kindly deliver her keynote address. Over to you, ma'am. I do not think she's still here, but maybe you could wait for a few more minutes.
She said that she's trying to log in.
Oh, okay.
Pardon me for the glitch. She's struggling with the network.
Ma'am, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So first of all, hello everyone. Good evening. I'm really glad to be a part of today's discussion. This is my second time that I am participating in the Raisina House discussions, and it's truly a honor for me. So as per the agenda that I received from Mr. Rahul, I think I'm supposed to talk about the role of Afghan youth in the Afghanistan's current situation. As an Afghan youth representative, being the Afghan youth representative has given me the opportunity to be more involved and more in touch with youth and to realize their actual and real role as the potential players of Afghanistan's current situation. When we are talking about youth role in Afghanistan, I would like to mention that since 2001 and 2002 till this moment, youth have played a very major and drastic role in Afghanistan's politics, in Afghanistan's economy building, in Afghanistan's nation building, in Afghanistan's politics, and many other sectors. I have always believed, and I have always said that Afghan youth and young generation has sacrificed a lot for this country. Meanwhile, they have contributed a lot to this country. They have made very huge achievements for this country. First of all, and most importantly, I would like to highlight and shed a light on the role of youth in Afghanistan's military. In the mission of counter-terrorism and fighting against terrorism, I believe that Afghan youth has contributed a lot. They have joined the military forces with a very less salary. I'm mentioning that because I want to point out that it's not about salary. Our military received the lowest salary in the current system. But due to the love for their country, love for their people, they have joined military. And we know that Afghan youth, like thousands and thousands of Afghan youth have been killed through past 2 decades in the mission of counter-terrorism and fighting terrorism and protecting this land and protecting this people, which is, I think, a very big achievement and a very big contribution that it is needed to be appreciated by international community, by Afghan government, and by us as local people. And moreover, I believe that the current Afghanistan, with all those developments, whether it's less or a lot, I believe that youth has played an important role. They build the system, they build the government, they build the state, they build the education sector, they build the economy sector. When we talk about Afghan youth, and when I ask them and when I ask local people that how do you evaluate our role as Afghan youth in Afghanistan? Like from point of view of local people, they really appreciate the achievements of youth in sport sector, especially our national sport teams, like our cricket national team, our other heroes that have brought us many honors and happiness. And also in education sector, in countries such as Afghanistan, we are a post-conflict country. Even we are currently burning in fire of war and conflicts, but yet a very large and huge number of youths have decided to get education. They have struggled a lot. They have endured a lot of problems and challenges to get good quality education, to complete their education, and then in return they are committed to give back their knowledge and their experience to the people and to the state and to the country. And when we come to the politics, I believe that youth are very essential. They have played very essential role in politics. Why? Because I believe that young generation are less corrupt than those politicians who have come to this to the political ground based on their personal affairs, or based on their many of them are warlords, many of them are previously have been in conflicts and deals. So it's a kind of nepotism. It's a kind of they are not well deserved. They are not sufficient enough, and they are not effective enough for this country. But when we come to youth, I believe that all those young potentials that are currently working as activists or as official people in the government, they are less corrupt, they are more committed, they are very familiar with the current new system of the world, they have fresh knowledge, and they have the energy to serve this country. Especially nowadays, when we are in a very critical era of time. Peace negotiations were going on, these target killings of youth, and the sudden break in the peace negotiations, and all those political turmoil and political uncertainty. I believe that youth have they have their own stand, they have their own mind, and if they were not that sufficient, I'm asking you that why would Taliban and other extremist groups target them? We are witnessing that nowadays target killings, the number of target killings have been increased, and many of the people who are being targeted are youth. We recently lost very, very young individuals and gems. We lost our very talented journalists. You know that freedom of speech is one of the most important pillars of a democratic country, a democratic state. And Taliban and extremists are afraid of those youth who are being engaged in civil society or in journalism. So they are targeting civic activists, political activists, and journalists, because those youth and those individuals are carrying out a very different idea and a very different mindset. They are influencing the people around them, and Taliban and extremists are afraid of this influence. That's why they are targeting them. That's why they are killing them. The recent attack on Kabul University is a very good example of that. Extremist groups are afraid of a young, educated, committed, and wise generation. I'm giving these instances and examples to make clear that youth are really, really contributing, and the young generation is really, really different from previous generations. That's why that we are being targeted. That's why that they are afraid of us. The recent attack on Kabul University was one of the bloodiest attacks in the history of Afghanistan. My parents used to tell me that even in the civil war, such an incident didn't happen. But in this era of time, while we are talking about democracy, while we are talking about human rights and world order is developing and changing, unfortunately, our education centers and our universities are being attacked. Our gyms are being killed. Those 20 or 22 young students who were killed in Kabul University, they were the most prominent and intelligent students of their faculty. And if they were alive, they will become judges, they will become prominent officials and serve the people. But they were killed very, very brutally. Our journalists are being killed. Yamas Yawash, he was one of the most brave journalists who would always raise his voice against corruption, corrupt people, warlords, and Taliban. But he was killed within a few seconds. So I'm giving these examples to express that the young generation of Afghanistan is no more the weak generation. They are educated, they are wise, they are familiar with outside world, and that's why everyone is afraid and everyone is trying to marginalize us. So in a nutshell, and as my last words, I believe that my generation, Afghan youth, have played a very important role in all sectors, whether it's military, whether it's politics, whether it's economy, whether it's education, sports, civil society, arts. In every sectors, they have played a very usual, considering the limitations, considering the restrictions, considering all the problems that are affecting our lives. Yet we have achieved a lot. So if the situation gets better, think about it. How much better will we become, and how much better will we perform? How much better will we get as a generation? Thank you very much. And if anyone have any question, I would be glad to hear.
Thank you, Ms. Shkula. It was such a nice speech that we have all heard. Now I would request Rahul Banerjee, co-founder and managing director of Raisina House, to deliver their vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Hasiba. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I, Rahul Banerjee, the co-founder and managing director, am here to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the board of directors at Raisina House. Rejuvenate Afghanistan is not just a project, but a process. A process
And there seems to be some technical glitch. I think Sir got disconnected. But on behalf of the entire Raisina House, I would really like to thank all the guests who could join us. And I think I think Rahul sir was trying to reconnect, but there seems to be some technical error. So yeah. Thank you to all of us who could join.
Okay, Rusha, I think we'd like to thank you very much. Just don't bother. If there's a technical error, that's perfectly understandable.
Thank you so much, sir.
Really can't do much. Thank you, Rusha, and of course, Hasiba, and I see Prateep Majumdar and Zia Saab, and Zadran spoke very well, of course, and to all the panelists here and to audience, I would like to say shukran and always the very best. May God provide you the wisdom of power and, of course, divine providence. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you to everyone who joined. I think we can leave now. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining, everyone.